Hello and welcome to my first video of 2024. Happy New Year! Happy holidays! Yes, I know I'm late. I wanted to make a video on Christmas Day, and it was going to be one where I talked about a bunch of things that I liked, since I wanted to make a positive holiday special. Unfortunately, I couldn't write something that I was proud of, and my computer decided to kill itself, so I guess fate wasn't with me on that one. I also planned for my first video this year to be part 2 of the FNaF review, and that will be coming soon, but for now, it has come to my attention that Marvel Studios has released something so bad, so vile, with such atrocious writing, that they managed to ruin something that was already garbage. Let me remind you of a little video I made a year and a half ago, where I discussed the many flaws with a movie called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. In that video, I briefly mentioned the show What If, saying,
There's also the Marvel What If series, but honestly, it's not that important. Or good.
And I stand by that statement. What If is a show that doesn't amount to anything. In the greater MCU timeline, none of the episodes actually mean anything. On its best day, it'll be a laughably mediocre experience that might pose some interesting ideas, but the episodes are nowhere near long enough to give any sort of depth to the things that it wants to explore. Now, you may be thinking, we get it, you don't like the show, get on with it. And to that I say, give me a minute, I'm getting there. Anyways, I was scrolling through Twitter the other day, and I was dumbfounded with this clip.
With their world collapsing in on itself, a band of heroes gathered together to save their reality. The Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff used her powers to reach into a neighboring universe for a warrior. One willing to face impossible odds to save a dying reality that's not her own. A hero like Captain Peggy Carter.
Now, there are so many things wrong with this clip, but then I saw this image, and I was like, what the fuck is this? But I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt, so I pulled up the episode and was disappointed to learn that it was actually a two-parter. Watching one episode of What If was bad enough. I can't handle two. So, anyways, I watched Season 2, Episode 8, What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602. And it was just as bad as I expected. I'm sorry. I'm all for giving things a fair chance, hence why I watched the episode, but there's so much wrong with this that I've decided to dedicate this video to talking about it. So, hold your horses, FNaF Part 2 is next, but for now, we're taking a detour to look at What If and Multiverse of Madness again. So, now that the intro is out of the way, you may be wondering, how does this episode have anything to do with Multiverse of Madness? Well, if you recall, Multiverse of Madness follows Doctor Strange as he tries to protect America Chavez from the Scarlet Witch. Wanda's entire goal is that she wants to kill America, take her powers, and use them to travel the multiverse and find a world where her kids are alive. So tell me, why would she need to kill America if she has the power to pull people from other universes? It almost seems like that power would come in handy when, I don't know, you're looking to use the multiverse to get your kids back? Where did this power come from? Did the writers not stop to think for even just a second? Did they not think, hey, Wanda couldn't do this in Multiverse of Madness, so obviously this is a power we should give her. Let's just make the entirety of Multiverse of Madness irrelevant for the plot of a 30-minute episode. Like, how can you give Wanda a power that completely ruins another movie? I can't. I just can't. We gotta add this to the list of things that Wanda could have and should have done instead of targeting America. She can summon monsters across the multiverse, and apparently she can grab people from other dimensions. She is right next to the Book of Vishanti twice, and doesn't even consider it as a potential solution, even though it can grant the reader whatever power they need. No matter how you look at it, whether it's just through the lens of that movie, or if you include What If now, there is a million different ways that Wanda could have peacefully gotten what she wanted. But instead, it undoes everything that WandaVision did for her character, and turns her into a villain when she was supposed to have more development before she turned!
It was always like, well, that'll happen in an Avengers movie or something. my perspective was, why are we letting some other movie get the best villain ever?
So, since we're on this topic, I want to talk a little bit about some defenses I've seen for this movie. One thing I saw is that people believe Wanda's character is a believable continuation from WandaVision. Unfortunately, I disagree. Wanda spends the entirety of WandaVision running away from reality. She makes a hex to hide from the grief of losing Vision. She denies the pain she's causing because she thinks that she's putting everyone at peace. She wants to live in this make-believe world because it has everything she can't have. But in the finale, when she realizes that it's hurting everybody, she lets them go free and she takes it down, giving up everything she wanted. Then, in the post-credits scene of the finale, we see her in a lonely, isolated cabin with the Darkhold. So obviously, seeing how WandaVision was about her overcoming her grief and letting go of this makeshift reality, it makes total sense for her to immediately make another hex, right? Because that's just a perfect continuation of her story. And then, there's also the fact that the climax of her story is almost exactly the same. In WandaVision, she decides to take down the hex because she was hurting people with it. And in Multiverse of Madness, she destroys the Darkhold because she realizes that she's hurting people and her kids see her as a monster. And I'm not trying to say that there aren't good aspects of this arc. I do like the idea of her kids snapping her out of it because they're scared of her. But the way they went about it was just repetitive and rushed. I also saw someone say that Wanda was apprehensive towards hurting people. Right. Because this is only doing what's necessary to accomplish her goals. This is her being reasonable. This is her being apprehensive. No! It fucking isn't! She's just evil! And if she didn't want to hurt anybody, then she could have considered the countless other ways to access the multiverse! I'm losing brain cells right now. I can't fucking do this. I don't have many to begin with! Let me live in peace! There's also the entire thing about Wanda being corrupted by the Darkhold, but that also doesn't work as a defense because we know 2 other Darkhold users that didn't turn evil. The Darkhold's corruption isn't something that's properly established. We have the entire movie telling us that multiversal travel is bad, and the Darkhold magic destroys universes. But Supreme Strange and our version of Strange both use the Darkhold, and neither of them were evil. Yes, Supreme Strange accidentally destroyed a universe by dreamwalking. No, that doesn't make him evil because he immediately told the Illuminati and let them kill him afterwards, which is still so stupid, but whatever. We also have the fact that Strange uses the Darkhold in the final battle, but that doesn't make him evil. However, we're supposed to accept that the Darkhold corrupts whoever it touches. Yeah, whatever. And you can argue that it's extended use of the Darkhold that corrupts you, but even then, Supreme Strange is a counter-argument. There just isn't enough consistency or logic for the Darkhold's corruption to be a valid argument. If it corrupted Wanda, why didn't it corrupt Strange? Answer that, and then I'll consider the argument. Anyways, that's all I really have to say about Multiverse of Madness. I saw the news that Michael Waldron, the writer for this movie, is also writing the next 2 Avengers movies, and that gives me no hope. However, I did hear that Waldron was hired to rewrite this movie in 2 weeks, which isn't going to make me forgive it, because it's just so bad, but it is giving me enough of an explanation to hope that he can take his time and come up with 2 movies that actually work. I don't have a lot of hope, but there's a little bit. Now, moving on to What If, this is a show that I have many problems with. I watched the first few episodes of Season 1 before deciding that the show wasn't for me. I found the ideas to be a bit too underwhelming, and combining that with the short runtime made the episodes feel like they weren't actually fleshing things out enough. There were some standout episodes, like What If the World Lost the Avengers, or What If Killmonger Rescued Tony Stark. Those were 2 episodes that I thought stood out as being pretty interesting. The other episodes weren't all that. The most commonly praised episode from Season 1 is What If Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands, and I do quite like the montage of Strange failing to save Christine, but the concept in itself breaks when they try to say that Christine's death is a fixed point. Like, they say,
"Her death is an absolute point in time.
Absolute.
Unchangeable, unmovable. Without her death, you would never have defeated Dormammu and become the Sorcerer Supreme."
No? He defeated Dormammu when he suffered irreparable damage to his hands. Christine lived in that timeline. Her death isn't an absolute point. There are other circumstances that lead Strange to becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. In fact, I'm shocked that they even tried to say Christine dying leads to the timeline playing out in the exact same way as the main timeline where she lives. The differences only start after the event of the movie, so it's a weird concept. Anyways, I'm going off on a side tangent. My point really is that What If as a whole is pretty shallow. The writing isn't there to begin with, and the short episodes just leave a lot to be desired. But that doesn't stop the show from having certain episodes that are just plain stupid, like the 1602 episode. I can't really wrap my head around it, so let me try to explain. In this timeline, a bunch of rifts are opening, and they apparently have linked the 1600s to the 21st century. Due to this link, the entire universe is dying, and so a group of brave heroes from 1602 decide to band together to try to fix the rifts. There are two factions, the Royal Gang and the Outlaws. The Royals are made up of Thor, Loki, Wanda, Nick Fury, Happy Hogan, etc., while the Outlaws are Steve, Bucky, Scott Lang, Tony, Bruce Banner, and Captain Carter when she's pulled into this universe. The entire episode is dedicated to Peggy trying to find the front runner that is behind all the rifts. All of this is introduced almost randomly. The episode is too short to let anything develop naturally. We're dropped into a time period where the rifts are already a well-known and expected thing. The first thing that happens is Hela dies because a rift opens again, and due to this, Thor dictates that Captain Carter is cursed and a traitor. We then get to see the scene where Wanda pulls Peggy into this universe, and it's just as dumb as you'd think. The world is dying because of these temporal rifts that combine the 17th and 21st centuries, and Wanda is like, yeah, we need someone who can join our fight and stop these things. We need someone strong. Let me just call up Captain Carter because she can throw her shield. Like, I guess the idea is that Peggy has a strong moral sense to do what's right, but don't you think it would have been more logical to, I don't know, pull in another version of Wanda? Or someone with a time stone? Or anyone else? Peggy's powers consist of super strength, stamina, and the shield. What about that stands out as exactly what's needed to fight against two time periods collapsing in on each other? Anyways, the damage is being caused by a forerunner who is someone displaced in time. They're the reason that time is fractured, and it's causing the universe to implode. This is revealed because Wanda just senses it. She can figure out that someone is fragmented through time, but she can't figure out who it is or how to fix it. Somehow, 1602 Tony Stark can. It's just lazy. Anyways, it's eventually revealed that the Forerunner is Steve Rogers from Infinity War. When fighting Thanos, he missed and accidentally hit the Time Stone, causing the rifts in time. That's great and all, but if the Avengers exist in the 21st century to fight Thanos, how do they exist in 1602? How are there two versions of Steve, Wanda, Tony, Scott, Bucky, Bruce, Thor, Fury, Loki, etc.? And we can't even say that it's because of the Time Stone, since the rifts interrupted the lives of everyone in 1602. As far as the story goes, they all just existed in that time period. So, once again, the writing makes no fucking sense, and just thinking about it is giving me an aneurysm. Anyways, something I've seen pointed out is that Captain Carter is an overused character. I do agree with that, especially considering the fact that she was first introduced in August of 2021. Sam Wilson became Captain America in the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which aired on April 23, 2021. It is now 2024, and Sam's next project is slated for a 2025 release. Meanwhile, Peggy is leading the show that is supposed to focus on multiple different universes. I've also seen people argue against this, saying that Peggy has only appeared in 5 episodes of an 18-episode show, and she had 1 movie appearance where she died. However, she has made an appearance somewhere in Marvel media every year since she was introduced. There has been nothing from Sam since April of 2021. How cool is that? It'll be pretty much 4 whole years before Sam returns, but Peggy Carter, a random what-if scenario, has been a much more prominent figure. It's embarrassing. You should also consider the fact that Peggy is summoned by Wanda because she's the best warrior to stop the rifts. But in Multiverse of Madness, Wanda killed Peggy easily. It's just a whole lot of awful writing. There's also this image of Peggy having the Infinity Stones, Hela's crown, some sword, and like, I'm not even saying that this can never work, but this show is supposed to be an anthology series, a series that focuses on different stories in each episode, like Black Mirror. It loses that title when Peggy is in nearly half of the series as the exact same character. The only episode that she should have returned in was What If Captain Carter Fought the Hydra Stomper, since it's a continuation of her story. Now, I can go on and on about the lazy writing in What If, and if I wanted to, I would. I wanted to make this a positive video, but here I am ranting about how much the current MCU projects suck. It's clear to me that I'm really just not a fan of the MCU anymore. None of the projects excite me. At most, I'm looking forward to the next Spider-Man movie, but even the news about that has got me a bit worried. So, I've decided that rather than just a video talking about the terrible writing of What If, I'm just going to air out everything I have to say about the MCU. I'll put everything out there, and I'm probably not going to make another video on this topic unless there's something that I think truly deserves a video. So, with that being said, I'm just going to talk about a few of the things that I find stupid. Jonathan Majors has been fired, and good riddance, he ruined his career by being an abuser, but that leaves a Kang-shaped hole in the MCU, and this isn't to make it about the MCU. I don't want to be one of those people who says, oh, what does this mean about the MCU? But this is an MCU video, hence why I'm talking about it. There are rumors that he's going to be recast, and there are rumors that Loki Season 2 was the end of Kang's story, and it's all just worrying. Kang has been the backbone of the multiverse saga. Everything they've set up was based on the fact that the multiversal war was brought on by Kang variants. I feel like Loki isn't a good enough ending, especially because the general audience isn't even going to see it. Most people who casually watch the MCU aren't gonna buy Disney Plus just to watch the shows, and that ends up being a problem because if Loki truly is ending Kang's storyline, then he was introduced and permanently defeated in a show, and meanwhile, Quantumania, the movie that people are more likely to watch, will have a cliffhanger that isn't gonna be followed up on. And I know that I've been critical of the storyline so far, and I do have more problems that stem from Loki, but I do think that abandoning the storyline is incredibly stupid. As much as it has problems, it can still be salvaged into something interesting. It's kind of sad to introduce something that really does have potential, and then get rid of it. I might make a video with my ideas on how to make Kang an interesting villain, but for now, let me talk about some of the problems I have with his portrayal in Season 2. They introduce Victor Timely as the new Kang variant, and he's treated as if he's the one who eventually becomes He Who Remains, considering that there's the whole time loop where he made the tech at the TVA and whatever. Anyways, they introduce this Kang variant just to kill him again. Unfortunate. And then we get to see He Who Remains again, and we find out that he was lying about the fact that killing him would unleash the multiverse, which kind of ruins what was interesting about him in the first place. I really liked the idea that he didn't know what was going to happen following Loki and Sylvie showing up. I liked the idea that he was the one keeping things in check, and that he was excited to die because he was experiencing something new. Unfortunately, Season 2 introduces the Loom, which is something that is designed to destroy every branching timeline and bring back the sacred timeline designed by He Who Remains. And there's also the fact that he knew that Loki would end up time traveling back to the fight between him and Sylvie. So his death wasn't some new experience, it was something he knew about since he already knew what would come after it. It also means that he was lying in the Season 1 finale, which again ruins what made him interesting. The Loom also doesn't make sense. If it was designed to kill the branching timelines and the TVA exists outside of time, then that means the branches would have died outside of space and time. If the Loom is destined to blow up the multiverse, then how does the multiverse ever exist? This is the problem with introducing time travel or multiversal ideas that are finite and definitive. It's like the Book of Vishanti in Multiverse of Madness. How can that book be the only version that exists throughout the entire multiverse, especially considering that the multiverse is made of branching timelines, where every choice spawns a new world? So there are worlds that still have a Book of Vishanti. And let me draw this out just so it makes complete sense. The TVA exists outside of time, and they monitor the entire time stream, so anything that happens here is outside the normal flow of time. That means that if the loom is designed to destroy all the branches, then that would happen outside of time. So if the timelines are destroyed by the loom, then they never existed in the first place because they never existed in time. There's also the fact that Loki breaking the loom killed every timeline. Kang said that if he broke the loom, the multiverse would be allowed to exist, but there would be war. However, Loki breaks the loom, and the timelines just die. That makes sense. Anyways, Loki somehow has the power to just bring them back by touching them, and he holds on to every branch, forming this tree around himself, allowing the multiverse to exist freely. However, how does this serve as an ending for Kang? He Who Remains is gone, the Kang in the Quantum Realm is dead, and Victor Timely was never given the TVA book, so that's 3 versions of Kang that are out of the picture. How does this stop the others? Everyone is treating it as a point where they can stop the storyline, but in reality, there are infinite versions of him that still exist elsewhere in the multiverse. So yeah, there are still issues with how it's being written, and I'd be pretty disappointed if this is how they decide to end it. There's also the entire issue with the stakes. I mentioned this at the end of my Kang video, where I said, "This highlights a bigger problem that I think is the main issue that the MCU has right now, and that's the stakes. Marvel wants to keep everyone hooked, and Endgame was this huge final movie in the Infinity Saga, so when the MCU continued after that, they wanted to keep things big. What's the problem with that? Well, none of the shows or movies that came after Endgame really warranted that. And I'm going to expand on that now. Since Endgame, Marvel has focused on the wrong things. If you take a look at the stakes following Endgame, you start to see a pattern. WandaVision was a generally low-stakes adventure until it ended with a 3-way final battle that hasn't even been fully resolved. Loki Season 1 covered the birth of the multiverse, and Loki Season 2 covered the death of the multiverse. Endgame had universe-ending stakes, and Loki, a show that the general audience might not even watch, has multiverse-ending stakes. Nice. Black Widow has a giant floating island that crashes into Earth, which, if I'm not mistaken, would do a lot more damage than it actually did. It also had an entire secret organization that got taken down on a whim in like 2 days. Eternals had world-ending stakes, Multiverse of Madness had multiverse-ending stakes, No Way Home had multiversal stakes, although it was handled much better than the others. Point is, Marvel has been trying to keep the stakes really high, even when the projects shouldn't warrant them. When you think of Loki, I don't think the first thing that comes to mind would be a multiversal god who stopped the impending collapse of every universe. But what would I know? I think the MCU really desperately needs to take a step back and make some grounded movies. We don't need more multiversal damage. I don't need another Endgame level threat that's being dealt with by one person. I just need something chill. Like a Spider-Man and Daredevil team up to fight Fisk. I'd like that. But it's not gonna happen, is it? Anyways, that's the end of my MCU rant. I haven't seen anything else. I didn't watch Secret Invasion, but I've heard bad things. I didn't watch the Marvels, but I've heard mixed things. Echo just came out, but I've also heard mixed things. I've heard that Deadpool 3 might explore Earth 838, which is the Illuminati Earth from Multiverse of Madness. I'm really hoping that's not true, because I like the Deadpool movies, and I don't want it to be ruined by Multiverse of Madness. But yeah, I'm not really looking forward to anything. I might watch a couple things they release, like Deadpool 3, Spider-Man 4, I'll probably watch the next Avengers movies, but for the most part, unless anything really good or really bad happens, I'm done. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit that subscribe button for more content like this. I will see you all soon with part 2 of the FNaF retrospective. Bye bye!